Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into scaling Ingmikortilaq and the Arctic ice bomb. We're going to interweave two incredibly high-stakes stories, both set in literally one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. On one hand, a terrifying, seemingly impossible 4,000-foot Arctic rock climb. And on the other, a critical scientific mission investigating our melting planet, happening right next door. So strap in, because we're heading to remote Greenland to look at the wild intersection of extreme human endurance and urgent climate science.
Okay, let's kick things off with the ultimate climber's question, the one that actually sparked this whole extreme adventure. If you know anything about big wall climbing, you know El Capitan in Yosemite. It's the absolute gold standard, right? It's the wall that made Alex Honnold famous worldwide. So naturally, the question becomes, after you've conquered El Capitan, is there anything left? Is there anything bigger out there in the world?
Well, to really wrap your head around the sheer, almost unimaginable scale of our objective in remote Greenland, you've got to look at the target, a massive sea cliff called Ingmikortilaq. We are talking about 4,000 vertical feet of rock. To put that into perspective for you, it's nearly 3 times the height of the Empire State Building. It's almost 1,000 feet taller than El Capitan. It is just a truly massive, completely unexplored expanse of rock.
Section 1, the Giant of Greenland. An unclimbed 4,000-foot sea cliff. Let's go meet this frozen behemoth. So this pristine, unexplored wall represents the ultimate crazy childhood dream of adventure. Just imagine standing at the base of this massive cliff, looking up and seeing absolutely nothing but smooth, steep, terrifying rock, all while massive icebergs are literally floating in the freezing water right beneath your feet. It's one of the biggest unclimbed rock faces on the entire planet. But as the team quickly discovers, unclimbed usually means unclimbed for a very, very good reason.
Which brings us to Section 2, Navigating the Choss Pile, the Micro Risk.
As the climbers start their ascent, they realize pretty quickly that they aren't on solid granite. No, they are navigating a climber's absolute worst nightmare, something known as a choss pile. Now, if you're not familiar, choss is essentially rock and gravel that's constantly shedding. It's just exfoliating down the fault lines. Every single handhold, every foothold is completely suspect. The mountain is literally crumbling right beneath their fingers. Alex Honnold actually captures the visceral horror of dodging these constant death blocks perfectly. Because they're climbing in a vertical line, whenever the lead climber pulls a loose rock, which, by the way, is happening constantly, that rock plummets straight down toward the rest of the team. As Alex bluntly puts it, if a medium-sized rock hits you from 50 feet away, it just kind of hurts. But if it hits you from 500 feet away, you'll be dead. They are essentially playing Russian roulette with the geology of Greenland.
And to make matters even worse, the climbers are facing a compounding series of life-threatening friction points. I mean, it's not just the loose rock. Because of some terrible weather earlier in the expedition, a massive chunk of their crucial climbing gear is just missing. They're out there relying on improvised rope setups. Incredibly, they're even sharing a single pair of size 37 climbing shoes. At one completely terrifying point, a metal anchor pin, the exact thing meant to keep them from falling to their deaths, simply blows right out of the rotten rock.
Section 3, the ticking ice bomb, the macro risk. Now let's shift our focus away from the rock to the huge planetary danger happening just a few miles away.
Our scientists, led by Haiti, are navigating some incredibly dangerous waters to study this massive force of nature. Just a few miles from the climb sits the Jensen Glacier, and this thing is an absolute monster. It's 40 miles long and over 3 miles across, flowing from Greenland's vast inland ice sheets straight into the ocean. The team is in a tiny boat, carefully weaving through a literal minefield of calving ice, totally terrified that a huge chunk could break off with zero warning and trigger a deadly tidal wave.
10 billion tons. That is the staggering amount of ice the Jensen lost every single year, just 2 decades ago. The burning question for our science team is, has that rate accelerated? Because, with global temperatures rising, glaciers further south and north are losing way more ice than they were 40 years ago. Haiti desperately needs to find out if this giant is following that same terrifying trend.
It's a simple but incredibly deadly domino effect. As ocean and air temperatures rise, the glaciers begin melting from below. This melt acts like a lubricant, right? It speeds up the glacier's flow into the sea, which then causes even more massive icebergs to calve off. Ultimately, this directly drives up global sea levels. So what's happening right now in this remote fjord in Greenland directly threatens the future of coastal megacities like New York, London, and Shanghai.
Section 4, the breaking point, weighing the risks.
Let's return to our climbers, because the compounding danger finally forces a massive breaking point.
The team is exhausted, terrified, and stretched totally to their limits. Veteran climber Mikey has been in the game a long time, and a heavy, deeply rational fear sets in. He decides these terrible rock conditions simply aren't worth his life. Mikey points out that over the years, he's lost more friends to climbing than he can count on his fingers and toes. Looking up at that crumbling, terrifying wall above him, his intuition just tells him to pull the plug. The risk is simply too high. But on the flip side, we see Alex Honnold's relentless, innate optimism pushing back against that exact same danger. To Alex, the prospect of securing the first ascent of one of the world's biggest unclimbed walls somehow outweighs the terror of the loose rock. As Mikey points out with a bit of a laugh, Alex might just be suffering from a little confirmation bias. He hasn't had a major disaster happen to him yet, so he genuinely believes they can push through safely. So we're witnessing this really intense, dramatic friction between seasoned partners facing the exact same terrifying wall. You have two totally valid perspectives here. Mikey chooses self-preservation and decides to head back down to the safety of base camp. But Hazel, the other lead climber, despite being absolutely terrified by the rockfall, she still feels that powerful pull of the adventure. She has a super honest heart-to-heart with Alex to make sure they are on the exact same page regarding safety, and they make the monumental decision to continue upward as a duo.
Section 5. Pushing to the summit. The final head wall.
With Mikey turning back to safety, Alex and Hazel push into the dangerous unknown all alone. They grab their missing gear, which thankfully finally arrived by boat, and totally commit to the wall. They are now facing the hardest part of the climb. This is the head wall. We're talking 1,000 feet of vertical blank rock. A place where a single misstep or pulled rock means ultimate disaster. Alex actually describes the features up there as stacked Jenga blocks, just teetering on top of each other. If you pull the wrong block, it feels like the whole mountain is going to crumble right onto you. They have to navigate sideways across these blank sections where they can't even secure their safety gear properly.
After hours of this terrifying, completely protectionless climbing, they miraculously reach the summit, knowing full well they essentially just rolled the dice and survived. I mean, the relief is totally palpable. They conquer the crumbling Jenga blocks and stand on the true summit, looking out over the magnificent, icy expanse of Greenland. But the reality definitely isn't lost on them. They took a massive gamble. As Alex freely admits, you can only roll the dice like that so many times in a climbing career.
Section 6. A Glimmer of Hope. Science from the Ice. While all that was happening up high, down at base camp, the climax of our scientific story is simultaneously yielding its results. Haiti and her team have finished their daring data collection, and the scientific process they use here is just fascinating. First, they deploy a drone right over the towering 300-foot face of the glacier to map it. Then, they retrieve time-lapse cameras that have been snapping photos of the ice every single hour. By tracking the exact movement of specific rocks and deep crevasses in those photos, Haiti can precisely calculate the speed of the glacier.
So, Heidi runs the numbers, fully expecting the worst, but the result is highly unexpected. The glacier is moving at 25 to 30 feet per day. Amazingly, this is the exact same speed it was moving 10 to 20 years ago. It hasn't accelerated at all.
And this proves something absolutely incredible. Despite the surrounding collapse, some parts of the Arctic are still holding strong, giving humanity a crucial window of time. It's this amazing glimmer of hope. While the rest of the Arctic is in a state of rapid collapse, the Dalgard Jensen is an exception. It hasn't begun a terminal decline yet. As Haiti puts it, this tells us that all is not lost. Some glaciers are really trying to hold it together. But it comes with a massive caveat, right? We just don't know how much longer it can hold on. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought from the summit, challenging us all to step up before this terminal decline becomes totally unstoppable. The science tells us we have a brief, incredibly fragile window. The climbers showed us exactly what it takes to push through seemingly impossible, terrifying odds to achieve a goal. So, as we look at the breathtaking, fragile beauty of the Arctic, we are faced with a choice. The opportunity to fix this and improve the human quality of life is sitting right in front of us. The only question left is, will we choose to act? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.